That's my arrangement of the Morning Blues, as I first heard it played by the Jim Kweskin Jug Band. I had been listening to the song a lot of the time, and I had it stuck in my head when I sat down to play one day, and this is just how it came out. I wasn't trying to specifically learn that version note for note. I was just evoking what I could remember and came up with this way that I've enjoyed playing it ever since. You can download the tab for free from my website, and let's walk through it here together and figure out how to play this. I'm in drop D tuning, and I have the capo on the 2nd fret. Right now you can hear my thumb alternating from strings 6 to 4, and that's really going to be the heartbeat of this particular arrangement. So playing this a whole lot, returning to it, and having this be your anchor will be a really good thing as you learn to play this one. In the first measure, we start on the 5th fret, and I like to use my ring finger to fret that 5th fret, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to slide up to the 7th fret immediately. So you can see in the tab that 5 is this tiny little 5. It's a grace note, which is what the symbol above it means. It means that that note doesn't have any actual time value. You're really just starting on the 5th fret, and you're immediately sliding up to the 7th fret, and I'm pinching that with the first bass note on string 6. Okay, the next thing I do, I keep my finger where I just slid to, and my thumb comes down to string 4, and I pinch that 7th fret of the high E string with string 4. That gives me 1, 2. Okay, on the 3rd beat, my index finger goes to the 5th fret. I pinch that with string 6. And then for the 4th beat, I'm just coming down to string 4 and playing a solo bass note. So that gives me 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, as we come to measure 2, we're going to start with pretty much the same thing, except we're going to play that melody note an extra time on the and of 1. 1 and. Then the thumb is going to come down. It's going to play string 4 by itself this time. And on the and of 2, we're going to play the 5th fret with the index finger, still on the high E string. So that gives us 1 and 2 and 3, 4 is just to finish out the bass line by playing the 6th and then the 4th string. So measure 2, 1 and 2 and 3, 4. Measure 3 is really similar. It starts with the same first 3 beats. But then after that 3rd beat, your ring finger is going to move up to fret the 7th fret of the B string. We're going to play that note on the and of 3, and then the thumb is going to come down to finish the bass line on string 4. So that gives us 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 for measure 3. Measure 4, you're going to start by barring the 5th fret of the 2nd and the 1st string. Now you might notice when you see me playing it at the beginning of the video that I also have my middle finger on the 6th fret of the G string. You don't have to have that finger there, but I just find it a familiar fingering position because it's a little triad there of an A chord. You might recognize it if you're used to playing the big F-shaped bar chord. It's those bottom 3 notes that give you a little major chord triad. So you don't have to play it that way. I just find it comfortable because, again, my fingers are used to playing that formation. So we're going to begin in measure 4 by pinching the 5th string and the 1st string on beat 1. We're going to play the 2nd string on the and of that beat. 1 and. So it's also worth noting for the first time our bass lines change just a little bit by coming down to string 5. But then we go back to string 4 on the 2nd beat. 1 and 2. Then my ring finger is going to fret the 7th fret, this time of the G string, on the and of 2. 1 and 2 and 3, 4. And then we just finish out the bass line like we did in some of the previous measures, string 6 and 4. As we come into the second theme of the song, you'll notice that first measure there is just 4 beats of the bass. I just feel like the song needs a little space there between theme 1 and theme 2. It is a little funny because it makes the second part 11 measures long, where maybe we want it to be either 10 or 12 measures. You can decide for yourself what feels right. That's what feels right to me. Coming into the second measure of that second line, we're going to start by just playing a bass note on string 6 with the thumb. We're operating out of a D chord shape over here with the fretting hand, And on beat 2, we're going to pinch strings 4 and 1. We're going to pull off that middle finger note on the 2nd fret of the high E string. Pull off to the open high E. And then immediately we're going to re-fret that note and pinch the 6th and the 1st string, the E strings. So now we have 1, 2, and 3. And the and of 3 there was my index finger picking the 2nd fret of the G string. Then my thumb comes down to the 4th string for beat 4. 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and the B string, 3rd fret. Okay, so if we back up a measure now to that measure of just 4 solo bass notes that give us a little space, we could think of it as 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and. Okay, let's do that one more time. Next measure is just bass again. Okay, do that one more time, really slow. Measure 4, I'm keeping that bass line going. 6, 4 gives me the first couple beats. Then I'm going to play a 4-fingered pinch here. I'm playing strings 6, 3, 2, and 1 using my thumb, index, middle, and ring finger to pinch all 4 of those notes together. And on the and of that 3rd beat, my pinky reaches up to fret the 5th fret of the high E string. Then my thumb comes down to play the 4th string in the bass, which is going to give me some time to make a little jump up the neck here. So far I've been speaking relative to the capo, which just means that instead of saying the actual frets that I'm on, I'm speaking about my frets in relation to the capo, right? So this isn't actually the 2nd, 3rd, 2nd fret. It's really the 4th, 5th, 4th fret, but we're speaking relative to the capo, which is usually what would happen. However, here, since I'm making a jump up the neck, I'm just going to tell you what the actual frets are, because we're pretty far from the capo when we get up here. So my pinky's on the 12th fret, and then my index is doing a partial bar to get the 9th fret of the G and the B string. And I'm just going to hit those 3 notes together. How does that fit in rhythmically? Well, we'd have 1, 2, 3, and 4, and that gives us the 4th measure of that 2nd theme. So now we'd have measure of just the bass here. Measure 10 starts with a couple bass notes again, and then you can see that grace note symbol again, so we're going to fret the 3rd fret, but we're not going to really spend any time on that note. We're just using that as a starting point to slide immediately into fret 5, and then we're going to sound the open G and B on the and of that 3rd beat, 3 and 4, as the thumb comes down, alternating to string 4 for the final bass note. Measure 10, 1, 2, 3, and 4. Measure 11, we're going to be on a D chord, and we're going to play another one of those 4-fingered pinches on the 1st beat. The thumb, index, middle, and ring, pinching strings 6, 3, 2, and 1. Then the thumb alternates down to the 4th string for the 2nd beat of the bass. On the 3rd beat, the thumb is now coming to A, because we're heading to an A chord. I like to just bar that A chord with my index finger, but however you like to play A, whether like this or like this, is going to work just fine. So after that 3rd beat A in the bass, I play the 2nd and 3rd string on the and beat again, but this time I have that A shape in there, so those are both on the 2nd fret rather than open. And now my thumb comes down to play the 2nd fret of the D string, also coming out of that A shape. Okay, that gives me in measure 11, 1, 2, 3, and 4. Measure 12 brings us back to D. This time we're going to do another big pinch, but it's not going to be all 4 fingers. We're just going to do the thumb, index, and middle finger. They're going to pinch strings 6, 2, and 3. And then the thumb is going to come down to string 4 on the 2nd beat of measure 12. Let's pause there and back up a little bit, because now we're starting to hear a more cohesive musical theme develop. So if we go to measure 10, but we don't start at the beginning, but instead halfway through on the third beat, which was where we were sliding from the third to fifth fret. Now we have that. Let's do that one more time. Because now we're just going to do that again. But this time, just one little rhythmic addition. And then a whole lot of bass notes at the end. What was that rhythmic addition? So that rhythmic addition, that you will see in measure 13. It's really simple. When you get back to that D, after you do the 4-fingered pinch to start that measure, mimicking what we did in measure 11, only difference this time, that was a quarter note in measure 11. In measure 13, those top 3 fingers, index, middle, and ring, they hit that D chord an extra time on the and of 1. 1 and. So you can see my thumb's not playing, other than on that very first down beat. It's not playing on the and beat, just the upper fingers. Okay, let's hear the whole thing now from halfway through measure 10 again, starting on that 3rd fret to 5th fret slide. And again, that's just the space that feels good to me. Feels like a good fit whenever I'm playing and singing this one. You can experiment with those bass lines, add, subtract, see what feels right to you. So I don't remember where that came from, that part. That was my own little thing. It wasn't really anything that I could remember happening in the Jim Kweskin version. I just kind of like the sound of this. Just kind of gives it a nice lively little climax at the end of things. That gives us the morning blues, at least the way I like to play it. Hope you like it too. Let's take a listen to what we have now. Been in business and I've been in love. Used to fly high like a turtle dove. Had the blues many a time. Nothing but a girl on a poor boy's mind. I got the morning blues, oh so bad. Honey, come and kiss me, they're the worst I ever had. Honey, come and kiss me, they're the worst I ever had. Honey, come and kiss me, they're the worst I ever had. Honey, come and kiss me, they're the worst I ever had. Alright, I tacked on the ending there. That's just my own little way of ending it too. I like to kind of groove out on that final theme and just repeat that line a few times with a couple changes in there. And you'll probably notice too that throughout that I was doing quite a bit of palm muting with my picking hand. I find that that can just kind of help add a little bit of this thumping drive to the bass line. Sometimes that 6th string note, it's not even really a note, I'm just kind of thudding that string, but I just like the way that sounds. Sometimes too though, as I'm playing this one, depending on where I am in the song, you know, there's a number of verses to it, so sometimes I'm doing that to kind of subdue things and just add a sort of different tonality to the guitar. Other times I'm just letting things ring and really just letting everything open up. All a matter of taste. So you can kind of decide what you want to do, and that can be a fun little micro improvisation that you add into the song, is the dynamics that you choose to play it with, how you choose to use that picking hand to dampen or come off the strings and let everything open up. And in that sense, you don't have to play it the same way every time. Even if the notes themselves don't change, you can always do something a little bit different each time that you play this one.